AMCA Africa is an organization that works to promote access to justice for minority groups and marginalized persons. Today we are here in partnership implementing the project that aims at empowering and voicing advocacy for intersex and transgender persons in partnership with the Canadian Fund for Local Initiatives.
My name is Gloria Alhunga. I am an intersex person. An intersex person is a child born with sex characteristics that do not fit into the either binary of male or female.
My name is Skach Mulusa, an intersex person. An intersex person is a person who was born with sex characteristics that does not fit in the binary of male or female.
My experience in accessing the sexual reproductive health services hasn't been good at all because of one, when you look at the use of contraceptives, I have so little information about them, and again, the companies that structure those like condoms, they are structured in a way that I cannot use them. When it comes to getting access to cancer screening, the instruments designed by the companies are designed in a way that can only accommodate women. And so being an intersex, it's difficult for me to go for the test since the instruments designed does not accommodate my need.
My experience as an intersex person accessing medical services, SRHR medical services, haijakuwa very fruitful because majority of the time the services zinakuwa offered pale does not align with my biological body. So siwezi access condom, siwezi access hizo screening, prostate and cervical because my body is different from other bodies, let me say like that.
My experience with healthcare workers as an intersex person and accessing the sexual reproductive health service, it hasn't been good at all because many of them have very low awareness or other information about us intersex, and so it ends up we are being subjected to a matter of stigma, discrimination and even violence because they undertake you under intrusive searches, making the hospital environment uncomfortable for me.
My experience with healthcare workers has not been that much friendly kwa sababu nilienda kusik service kwa well-renowned hospital in Kenya, but nilikuwa subjected kukua kama something apparatus ya kufanyia some practical because like hii service gani unataka acha kwa nini hivi, so unapata ni doctor after doctor, daktari after daktari, wewe unashanga nini, huyu anatoka anaenda nje anaitoa mwingine, so ijakuwa that much friendly.
Okay, one day I visited a public hospital and I just went to seek services of knowing my HIV status. Upon reaching there, the healthcare worker who I approached first, when I told her my name is Gloria, and she was looking me like there is a mismatch somewhere, because if you look at my name and my biological appearance, you could see the mismatch. So I was denied that mere service in the name that I remember what she said, I quote, that the government has changed rules nowadays and you cannot just do your HIV status without your partner. Who is your partner? I told her my partner is female. And she said, oh, then I'm sorry I'm sorry you could go take these services to a private hospital. I asked her why, and this is a public hospital, you know. So we ended the conversation that way and I went. So I never got the services anymore, and it's a public hospital. I only have an HIV cover. Yeah, I don't have an insurance, I have an NHIF. In fact, NHIF is not friendly to intersex needs because as intersex person, I have unique needs that in NHIF should cover. And the packages that comes with NHIF, it doesn't have or rather cater for the unique needs I need them to be catered for.
I have healthcare cover which is NHIF. Na hiyo NHIF, the package in NHIF I cover for SRHR simply because the services which I'm supposed to get haiko kwa package yenye NHIF inaonyesha. So like SRHR, prostate screening na cervical screening, unapata the required equipment to use for my body, like it's too expensive for the health facilities kunini, so ni lazima uingie kwa mfuko ndio uweze kupata hiyo, of which na kwa package ya NHIF haiko.
So I've heard of the Intersex Persons Bill. I've interacted with it severally, and I believe when it's passed, it comes to be an act, it will favor intersex persons in this way. When it's passed, it will, it will cater or rather fill the gaps and the challenges that intersex persons we are facing. When it comes to health, there will be some procedures, mechanism to be laid by the KMPDU, rather medical boards, to cater for the special treatments of intersex. And again, intersex persons, we have a right to make family. So through this assisted reproductive bill, when it passes again, intersex persons will have a right to make a family.
I've heard of Intersex Persons Bill, of which interaction yangu nayo imekuwa positive kwa sababu the recommendation ziko pale ndani like zitasaidia majority of intersex person kutoka kwenda kwa health services, kuseek health services kwa sababu inaongelea protection pia. So hiyo protection itakuprotect, unaweza kuwa free kwenda ku seek services kwa hospitali with less discrimination.
Like when you say cancer screening, like for me, I'm an intersex person. Each time I present my document, rather ID, when they see my name and they see my biological appearance, there is a mismatch. So there is no way I can go to the hospital and request for services like cervical screening. Yet they see me as a man, but my identification identifies me as female.
Documentation still ni challenge because the kwa government yetu they offer services aligning with the sex on the documentation. So sometimes unaenda kupokea services but wanakuambia, wanakuuliza huyu ni wewe kweli, so unapata whatever ulikoenda kupata service kwa hospitali unakuwa denied simply because whatever is in the document does not align na wewe mwenyewe.
As an intersex person, the laws that I would wish to be made some changes is one, there is need for NHIF cover to cater for the unique needs of intersex persons. Let it cover for our unique needs. And again, when it comes to health, these procedural mechanisms that will be laid, let them cover for the special treatment of an intersex person, as well as what do we call? Let the CS responsible for health pay for this treatment for intersex, because I know they are very expensive and intersex persons cannot afford them. So if the CS of the Ministry of Health will cater for this, it will have already covered for intersex persons not to have many problems when it comes to health complications.
What I want to be changed in the law ni na health sector ni the health sector to come up with a policy enye itakuwa ina guide the healthcare workers kwa stigma and discrimination, to have a friendly environment in health sector whereby any intersex person akienda ku access services atakuwa subjected to discrimination, stigma, ama kuwe kama apparatus kufanya example. So kuko na zile guidelines in our limit to what extent they must do something.
When it comes to contraceptives, and let them have some talks with the companies that are designing this, like when it comes to speculum, that does the cancer screening, whether cervical or prostate, let them be designed in a way that it can also accommodate intersex persons. and not the male and female.
The changes to be made in the health sector, in the Department of SRHR, in terms of contraceptive, I think I'll urge the government, simply because I will urge the government kwa sababu if they have recognized intersex in census, then they must do something regarding SRHR kwa sababu SRHR ni compulsory. Kama siwezi access STI screening, siwezi access cervical, siwezi access hizo vitu zote, then it's a challenge to the government. Niko kwa ile risk ya kupata hizo ugonjwa, but simply juu siwezi, hizo equipment haziko. So my call ni the government wa put more in health sector in regard to intersex child and intersex person, ndio waweze ku access these services freely and at affordable expenses.
When it comes to sanitary towels, they are more comfortable with women and not me as an intersex person. There is need for them to be designed for intersex persons.
As you have heard from the other speakers in the video, we are talking about the sexual accessibility of sexual and reproductive healthcare services for intersex persons in Kenya. Article 43 of the Constitution does provide for the right to health, which includes the right to reproductive healthcare. However, this is far from the reality for a lot of intersex persons. This is mostly because, first of all, the issue of documentation and registration. Despite the Children Act 2022 that was passed recently, that now allows for the registration of intersex persons and allows intersex persons to have their documentation changed, this act does not have any regulations so far, and what that means for intersex persons is that they cannot have documentation that show their sex as being that of an intersex person. Consequently, intersex persons are unable to access any healthcare needs because, for instance, even if one has an insurance card or has an identity card that shows that they are either male or female, when they go to access healthcare services and the medical practitioners realize that they are an intersex person, it becomes a whole problem of how they can access these services. On the other hand, we did a research on the normalization and conversion practices of intersex persons in Kenya. And one thing that was found in that research is the issue of inaccessibility of sexual and reproductive healthcare services. For instance, for intersex persons with female organs, they do require to go through cervical screening. But the instrument used to conduct a pap smear, they do not at all have any accommodation for the bodies of intersex persons. This also applies for those intersex persons that require prostate screening. On the other hand, when it comes to simple things like sanitary towels, sanitary pads and tampons, when it comes to things like contraceptives like condoms, most of them are not designed to accommodate the bodies of intersex persons. So what this means at the end of the day is they are unable to access these services, which usually for us who are within the binary, who are either male or female, which are usually very easy for us to access. For them, they cannot access these services at all. On the other hand, we have the issue of having a lack of policies that include issues relating to intersex persons and guidelines that guide healthcare workers when it comes to intersex persons. A lot of healthcare workers are very misinformed about who intersex persons are. As you heard from the video, some of them even use the bodies of intersex persons as experiment as testing. They use their bodies as experiment for them to conduct medical experiment, which is not proper. Hence, we are here to conduct advocacy for the adoption of the Intersex Persons Bill. This is a bill that has been introduced by the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, a bill which, among others, provides for the right to health care for intersex persons, which includes the right to reproductive healthcare services. One of the provisions in that bill is for the right of intersex persons to adopt. On the other hand, it also has provisions for the right for intersex persons to access reproductive healthcare technology. On the other hand, we are also calling upon for the amendment, which is something that you're already working on right now, for the amendment of the National Reproductive Healthcare Policy to have issues relating to intersex persons and have guidelines for medical practitioners in relation to the SRHR needs of intersex persons. Therefore, we call upon for the adoption of the Intersex Persons Bill, and the formulation of regulations for the Children Act 2022, as well for the amendment of the National Reproductive Healthcare Policy.